Hey, this is Cooking for Nikki. We're gonna make chicken katsu, which is not at all an ancient Japanese dish. It's Japanese for chicken cutlet. So fried chicken cutlets, you're gonna need some sort of chicken. People who are foodies say thighs are better, but I don't like dark meat, so I'm using chicken breasts. Some salt, some pepper, flour, any type will do. A scrambled egg, so I just took an egg, cracked it, scrambled it with a fork, and dumped it on a plate. And then breadcrumbs. In the spirit of a Japanese dish, I like panko crumbs. You can use any type of breadcrumb. If you don't have breadcrumbs, you could just leave some bread out overnight and put it in a blender or food processor to pulverize it. And then we need a pan with a little bit of oil in there on medium-low heat. And here we go. Because I'm impatient and I like it to cook faster, I'm going to take my chicken breasts and I'm going to cut them halfway like this. It works best if you push down on it with your hand and just saw right through it. So you're going to go about halfway up and just slice straight through by applying pressure the whole time with your hand. And here we go. So now we've got this thing butterflied into two smaller pieces. And we can take a little salt and put a little pepper on. And if you're feeling particularly spicy, you can flip it over and put more salt or pepper. My family doesn't love a lot of pepper, so that's it for me and the pepper. Moving down the line here to the flour station and the egg wash station. You're just going to put the chicken in the flour, and we don't need to get a ton of flour on it. It just needs to be a little bit. And from the flour, it goes into the scrambled egg. And you can do it assembly line style. Once you move it to this is great. I can't wait to hear this audio in my video later. Once you move it into the egg, you can put the next one in the flour. You get it in both sides of the egg. And again, you actually don't want an excess of anything because it just falls off when you're frying it and makes a gigantic burn mess, which is a little bit of a bummer. I've let this one kind of drip a little bit and I'm putting it in the breadcrumbs. I will show you that next, but I'm going to take this one and put it in the egg first. Okay, so now we're moving down to the breadcrumb station. After the egg wash, you just roll around the breadcrumbs to make sure it's coated. Let's flip this guy over here. And again, you want the whole surface to have egg and flour on it, but not too much of anything. So just let it drip off. And then dump it into the breadcrumbs. Now, depending on how decadent you're feeling, you can double coat it in breadcrumbs. So I'm just going to take this one as an example. Put it back in the egg. Get it all gooped up again. I need more egg here. And then get it back in the breadcrumbs. This is going to make an extra crunchy version. Okay, again, we're just going to dredge it in the breadcrumbs. And you want to shake off any excess breadcrumbs. Okay? You don't need to have a screaming child at your house when you do this. If you feel like it would help, you are welcome to borrow mine. I'm going to rinse my hands off and then we'll go to the frying stage. Okay, my oil here is smoking, so it's too hot. So I gotta turn the heat down. You want to use a neutral oil, vegetable oil, corn oil. Grapeseed oil is my oil of choice. Right now I'm just using a general purpose vegetable oil. I've got the heat basically off because it's too hot and it's gonna burn. Olive oil is really the only oil you don't want to use because it has a low smoke point, and that means that the oil is going to start to oxidize and go rancid, which is not ideal in a dinner here. So my oil is fine. As soon as I get something in it, the chicken, it's going to cool off. And This is not going to end up being too hot. So I'm just going to take the chicken, lay it in. You don't want to overcrowd the pan because it's going to bring the temperature of the oil down too fast, and the thing's not going to cook particularly well. So this is it. You're going to cook it for, I don't know, 3 minutes on a side and flip it until it's nice golden brown. I think this was still a little too hot, so it might burn. But these are nice and thin, so they'll cook fast. You don't really need to be worried about them being raw in the middle unless you really undercook. But by the time they kind of look to the appropriate color, they should be basically done. So the oil's not smoking anymore. I'm going to put the heat back on and grab some tongs so I can flip this. Alright, so this isn't necessarily good viewing, but everything's cooking away here nicely. It's pretty darn brown on the bottom, so I'm going to go ahead and flip these. This could be like a first pancake situation here. These are going to be okay, actually. So I believe this was my single breaded one, so you can see if you like the look of that. If that doesn't look bready enough for you, then... Ooh, look at that. A giant chicken nugget. So the difference between this one and this one is I breaded this one and I breaded this one, but this one over here I put back in the egg, and I don't want the and I put this back in the egg and put it back in the breadcrumb. Okay, I'm running out of time to make this video here, so I'm going to hope this is done soon. I'm going to cheat and use the thermometer even though it's not strictly necessary, but I want to get this out the absolute soonest I possibly can. I'm going to have a plate standing by with paper towels in it for my chicken to hang out in. Okay, so let's just see how we're doing now. Temperature wise, again, thin pieces, pretty good. So this is 140 degrees. That's got to be a little more done. 165 is the USDA recommended temperature. But there's a whole pasteurization curve. So if you cook something to 165 and immediately turn it off, it's good to go. If it's at 150 degrees for a few minutes, that is also equally good as far as pasteurization goes. So I will pull these off a little bit before that. That's basically the whole thing here. If you don't have a thermometer, you could just cut into one of these right now and see if it looks the right amount of done. This one here is already 151 degrees. So I'm going to call this little one here. I'm going to eat this over rice with green beans tonight. There's nothing special about either one of those things. This is not really a meal that requires any special accoutrement. So any side dish that sounds tasty with it is good, including just sticking this on a sandwich. That would be tasty too. So as long as you don't have your heat too high, this oil will be good for several batches. And if it starts to get pretty gross though, you can swap out for new oil. The key to not ruining your oil is to not have too many bits that fall off in the bottom, because those just get burned. But this is certainly good for several more batches. That's it. Chicken katsu, 9 minutes and 30 seconds start to finish.